Welcome, everyone, to the Global Mindfulness in Education Summit. Today, I'm very excited to introduce you to Maryam MehBoob, who's joining us from the Charter for Compassion in Pakistan. Welcome, and thank you for joining the summit, Maryam.
Thank you so much for having me, Helen.
Really excited for you to learn from Maryam today. We've talked in the past, and I think the work that she's doing is really exciting and wonderful. So the Charter for Compassion is an international group, right? And then you brought it to Pakistan in 2011, I think. Is that correct?
Yes, Charter for Compassion is a global movement, if you will. It was initiated by Karen Armstrong. She's a British author, and she's done extensive research. She's written a lot of books on religion, and she initiated this charter where the emphasis was that one thing that is to be found, across the board amongst all religions is the golden rule. Which essentially is compassion. And that is, you treat others the way you'd like to be treated. And so based on that, she got a lot of leaders from around the world, from different backgrounds, political leaders, religious leaders, thought leaders, to come together and put together a charter. And then it has been endorsed by a lot of international personalities, a lot of prominent people. Now, this charter is running as individual charters in different countries. And we have one in Pakistan, started in 2011. We've been operational on ground since 2013.
Wow, wonderful. Yeah, so we'll hear more about what you're doing in Pakistan, which I know is wonderful work. But let's just start first by we're asking all our speakers, when did you first come in contact with mindfulness, even though maybe you didn't know it was mindfulness at the time? When did you first experience it in your own life?
Then, like you said, now that I know what mindfulness is, when I look back, I'd say it was in my mid-teens when, interestingly enough, I started practicing religion more consciously. So, in the Muslim tradition, we have this ritual, if you will, the daily 5 times prayer. And apart from everything else, it's a combination of different postures. You read certain verses out of Quran, but even more importantly, what is often said when you try to understand the essence of this ritual is that you be where you are, and that is essentially in the presence of the divine. Right. So that required. I understood that it required me to discipline my mind, so that the mind doesn't wander off to other thoughts. It required a lot of self-discipline. And doing this 5 times a day, spread across the entire day, it did require a lot of self-discipline. That's when I really started understanding what mindfulness was. In later years, so this continued. Later on, I ended up exploring the mystical side of religion, which is oftentimes known as Sufism. And this is where I started really getting into and exploring meditation, that particular form of mindfulness. Yeah. Watching your thoughts, watching your intentions, trying to understand and differentiate between who you really are, the part of you that's divine, as it is said, and the part of you that's just maybe social conditioning. And that's when I really started exploring meditation in a very religious context to meditation in general. And that's when I started reading on Louise Hay and other scholars, other writers who worked on this.
So, Maryam, tell us a little bit more about mindfulness in Pakistan. What are where do the traditions come from, or is this a new thing? I think, as you have just mentioned, there's probably a lot of religious background to it.
Helen, when we talk to people here, a lot of people will not immediately understand the term mindfulness, except for very, very few. So when we try to explain the concept, one way of doing it is in fact through the daily 5 times prayer. Because it's something that holds a lot of value and meaning to people.
Yeah.
That's where they understand it immediately. So you can imagine that this is something that is practiced across the board, and it's not just the Muslims. Pakistan is generally, people are very attached to their beliefs, be they Muslims or not. So for each of those groups, religious groups, they have their own traditions where mindfulness becomes important, where you concentrate and you try to be really present, bring yourself to the presence of God or the divine, however you may define it. But interestingly enough, the concept of mindfulness, as we understand it, through meditations, through self-discipline, self-awareness, that too has gained a lot of momentum. It's becoming very popular. People become very health conscious, so they will sign up for activities like yoga and just a lot of physical activities and exercise. And a lot of practitioners here continue to combine elements of mindfulness in their regimens, be they doing a workout or there's the different forms of yoga that people practice here, or even dance. The variations of that have become very popular in mostly the urban parts of the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And in terms of schools and educating children, what's growing or becoming more popular in this kind of social emotional world or the mindfulness world?
In the recent years, there has been more interest in exploring the social emotional learning aspect in education. And people in Pakistan are now beginning to experiment with certain systems, because for a very long time, we followed the British education, the Cambridge system. But now you'll see that people are more interested in other systems like the IB system. Some people in Pakistan are now experimenting with the model of education that's very popular in Finland. Our program, we are a non-profit organization. We have a program revolving around what we've identified to be 9 skills of compassion, and mindfulness is one of them. When we take it to schools, they're really interested, because they will tell us oftentimes that, what with regards to the quality of education being provided, in terms of the curriculum, that part they get now. That's not difficult. It's other things that they have problems with, holding student attention, dealing with students who come from a background where they have social emotional, you can see that they have issues, when it comes to their emotional health or social well-being. So a lot of people are now showing interest in this element, if that's become part of education, that's being recognized as an integral part of education. We have our program running. To be honest, I'm not aware if there are other organizations working around it. I know schools are making an effort on their own part to do this. But gradually, this is gaining popularity.
Yeah, wonderful. And what are some of the challenges that you face when you go into schools? Are they very receptive, or are there some challenges that you face?
Well, interestingly enough, for the most part, schools are very receptive. But that's because, when we go into schools, we essentially targeting communities. We want to reach out to communities. And that's where our approach entails that we understand where they're coming from, with the problems, with the common practices, with what would be acceptable to them. And then we combine local understanding of those issues, even solutions from within the community, to our expertise, and then design a program very specific to those communities.
Right.
Very rarely does it happen that we'll encounter problems. What we've in fact had a problem with is, when you go into low income schools, underserved communities, as much as a lot of teachers would want to commit, these teachers have a lot of responsibilities. Mostly they're women, and they'll tell you, it's hard enough as it is to cope with the pressures of getting your syllabus completed within that school year's time. Adding on to it a training of this sort, it can be very challenging because this
Right.
requires constant practice. It requires
Yeah.
them to be in a continuous conversation with us. So that kind of commitment can take its toll. But otherwise, the importance of the program and the techniques that we talk about, the content that we deliver, very rarely, if at all, we've received
Yeah.
any objection to that.
Yeah, that's wonderful that that people are so receptive to it, 'cause that's the first step, isn't it? Is getting people to try it. And so tell us more about. You mentioned that there's 9 components to the program, which mindfulness is one of them. Tell us what the 9 components are, and then maybe a little bit about how they work together in the schools, or how you present that to a school.
Right. So we start with mindfulness, and it's a wonderful technique to take them through all the rest of the 8 skills. Starts with mindfulness. We talk about self-compassion, and I can tell you, with the rest of the skills, people still have some idea, some concept of it. They consider these to be values that they get from religion or something that's been passed down to them from their families. But mindfulness and self-compassion are always very new ideas to people.
Right. Okay.
So we start from there and take it all the way to empathy, humility. There's gratitude, forgiveness, courage, integrity, and then there's altruism. So we started off, the first few programs that we designed. There was a teacher training program around these 9 skills. And the first aim is to create a conceptual clarity and understanding of these skills. We then move on to break it down to different techniques, things that can be practiced, because what we convey to them is it's not something you're born with or not. It is something you can actually bring in your daily practice if you commit to it, and if you understand the value and the importance of it. We also design a set of lesson plans for schools so that whatever they do in class in terms of lectures, in terms of what happens in conversation, in the interpersonal interaction with students, can be backed by these lesson plans. Right. But the program has evolved since then, and more recently what we've started to do is, like I said, we've been targeting communities. We go into communities, we invite mostly teachers, we start with them, and we get a conversation going along these 9 skills so that we understand, one, where do they stand on each of these 9 skills. Also, what are the local practices? What is important to them? How would any of these skills be relevant to them? And based on that, we design our program that would be immediately relevant to the people of that community.
Yes.
And what it does for us is, it makes it easier for us, because the idea is to empower communities. Our intervention should be restricted, and from a certain point, the community itself should be able to take it forward. So when they realize that the solutions suggested have essentially come from them, it's a lot easier for them to implement those skills.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to do it, and bring the knowledge and wisdom of the community in it as well. So that's wonderful. So Maryam, tell us a little bit about, I know you and I had talked in the past, you have a program called Bridges, I think, or working with kind of street children, or children that don't have stable homes. So tell us a little bit about that and what impact that program has had.
Yeah. So Helen, what we've been doing these past few years is we worked with schools that are like formal schools already established. There's schools that we are running in partnership with the government. So we're part of the administration and the administrative setup. But we've also we've been involved in non-formal education setups as well, and these are essentially for out-of-school children. This one project that you're referring to, the Bridges project, what we did was we reclaimed the space under this one particular bridge, and we used that space, created a safe boundary, created an area that would be safe for learning, and invited out of school children from communities nearby to come there. And we have different programs for these students. One of the things that we're doing is basic literacy,
Yeah.
basic alphabet and understanding of English alphabet or Urdu alphabet, the local language here.
Yeah.
Numbers, basic, subtraction, addition. This is just a very basic knowledge of that. But we're also trying to impart in them other skills through these 9 skills. Skills like critical thinking, skills like becoming more self-aware, becoming aware of their own emotions. We want them to become aware of the opportunities around them, so that they understand that they're not that this isn't it.
Yeah.
A lot of people do have. Some of these kids are incredibly smart, and so for them to realize that they can make find opportunities for a better future. And that we do through different programs again. We do it through book reading sessions. I've even conducted a few mindfulness exercises with them. And so that has been, again, it's been well received.
Yeah, what a wonderful gift for the students, and I love what you said, that that's encouraging them to realize it's a temporary situation and there are opportunities. I think it's really wonderful to hear that program's going on.
Helen, when you talk to these kids, it's not like they don't have ambitions.
Yeah.
When we were talking to these young kids, and some of them said they wanted to be pilots. One of them said he wanted to be a train conductor or something. So you then help them channelize their ambitions, their desire to have bigger dreams, and tell them what is possible.
Yeah, well, amazing. Thank you for sharing that, and for all that you're doing. Tell us, Maryam, what's a practice that either with the Bridges program or the program that you're bringing into schools and communities for teachers and children? What's a practice that you have found really resonates with the community wherever you go to kind of introduce this topic?
Yeah, one of the things that we do in our training sessions with teachers is use visualization techniques.
Okay.
And through that, we help them understand the importance of other skills, self-compassion, gratitude. And once you establish how important it is, teachers become more convinced to bring it to their classrooms. Not everyone is qualified to conduct those meditation sessions. So what we instead do is we give them different activities. One of the things, and we did this, we work with schools in Karachi, which is an urban city, a developed city, but we're working with schools in the interior of the province. And these are some of these areas, the schools that have been established by the government now. Prior to this, they had no concept of a formal school. And so in working with them, they would tell us how it's difficult to get students to sit in a classroom for all of those hours. We teach them certain techniques on how to focus. Starting your classroom day, again, through visualization techniques, through mindful hearing, mindful art practices. And the teachers reported, the very immediate impact that it had for the rest of the school day, where students were in fact able to focus.
Right.
Another thing that's come up, we conducted certain group discussion exercises. And one problem that came up in schools was students would come to school without having had proper breakfast.
Right.
And so they find it hard to focus for the rest of the day. One of the teachers said, in our community, so this is a community where they grow dates. That's very popular and central to this community. And they said, even in the poorest of households, at all times, they'll at least have dates.
Right.
And what we're introducing in these schools is get these students to bring those dates to school in the first 15 minutes. Just have a mindful eating exercise.
Right.
And that should be the start of the day. So,
Wow.
like I said, we try to find opportunities for implementation of these techniques from within the community, so
Yeah.
that communities feel at home with these practices.
Yeah, so important. I love that story about the dates and bringing what's available and
Yeah.
what's important to that community. So that's really wonderful. Just before we finish today, Maryam, is there anything else you would like to share with our viewers, or anything that we haven't talked about that you think they might find interesting?
Helen, we work with schools. We work with schools within Pakistan, but we've been at times been approached by people from outside of the country, and so in the more recent months, we've been working on creating room for working with schools across the board. We have interesting models that we've managed to establish, working with different communities. In our experience, there've been plenty of learnings. And we do want to put it out there. If there's any school that would like to learn of our experiences, our learnings, borrow from our model and resources that we managed to create, we'd be more than happy to help. What we'd also, perhaps this is being slightly selfish here, we'd also like our own students, to have that kind of exposure because they always cherish it.
Yes.
We want these students to understand that beyond their own identities, religious, ethnic, national, that there is in fact a common ground, that of compassion, through which they can make these connections. We've done a few of these exercises previously, but given the urgency for something of this sort, we'd really encourage schools to get in touch if they'd like to have us help them with anything. We'd be more than happy to do that. And whatever programs are running, we'd be very glad to share it with them.
Oh, thank you. That's really, really exciting and generous. I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in seeing that model. So we'll have all the details on the speaker bio about the Charter for Compassion and how to contact Maryam below here, so you can reach and get in touch. But I just want to say thank you once again for coming on and sharing with us, and it's really wonderful hearing the beautiful work that's going on in Pakistan around mindfulness and compassion. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon and hopefully meeting
Thank you
you
so
one
much,
day.
Helen. Definitely. Thank you so much. You're always welcome here.
Thanks. All right. Thank you.